Hey, happy Thursday. Hope you've had a fun and productive week and had plenty of laughs as well. I'm Adam Ruff, it says right here on the screen, product designer at AngelList, and this is a weekly product design office hours. I'm here. Tonight's going to be a little bit shorter one. We're just going to do an hour. Usually I do a couple hours. And I'm here for you. So if you have questions about design, you have things you want to share, or you just want to hang out and hear me share some things and work on some projects and talk about some topics, that's cool too. Hope you get something out of spending some time with me today. Or later if you're in a different time zone and you're sleeping. It's all good. So I'm going to dive right in because of the short time today. And the first thing I'll do is my quick AngelList pitch. I feel like I've got things set up a little bit nicer now. So I'm going to do a quick pitch for AngelList, the talent side. Now my team is the venture team. So we work on products and we're serving investors and angels and fund managers who are leading investments on the platform. I'll highlight what I think is probably most valuable to you as a designer or aspiring designer or a designer that's ready for something different, which is the talent side of AngelList. And I just wanted to show off a couple things that I think are really cool. So I'm here in AngelList. Here's me. And I'm in the kind of job search area. And I put on some filters. I put product designer as my label. And something that's really cool about AngelList is that it lets you pick locations. So looking for jobs in Tokyo, Copenhagen, Taipei. That's a fantasy of mine in the future, far future. I'd love to spend some time working in these other places. You can set like full-time, part-time, equity, compensation. If you have some requirements around that or want to narrow in your targets, you can do that. It's super cool. Oh, and I didn't even say the coolest thing. It's especially good for finding jobs at cool startups. So these are places and companies that may have opportunities to dive in and get your hands dirty with a lot of things, wear a bunch of hats, make stronger connections with the entire team. And that's AngelList. So if you've used AngelList in the past, I'd love to hear about your experience. And the next time you are ready for a new job search, I hope you'll keep AngelList in mind and check it out. The next thing I will share, let me post a link to I'll just do an angel.co link in chat, and you can find the job section there. The next thing I'll share in chat is going to be the question board. So each week I try to take a few of the highest rated or most recent questions on this question board. So if you're interested in adding a question or you want to upvote something that you see that looks good, now is the time to dive in, ask some questions, upvote some questions, because as soon as I'm done with my little sharing portion, I'm going to come back to these questions and try to knock out a few of them. Okay, with that said, I've got a few things to share today. The first is kind of not design related, but I think it's particularly interesting. I'm having a particularly interesting week because both my wife and I are participating in this fast mimicking diet. The company name is Prolon. There's this doctor. We heard this podcast. Walter. It's got to tell us. It's got to have him on here, right? Does it? Doctor. Here it is. Dr. Walter Longo. You can search for Dr. Walter Longo podcast. I think it was with Kevin Rose that he was talking with. And my wife and I were really curious to try it because I think we are infatuated with the idea of fasting, and we believe in the long-term health benefits of fasting, and yet it sounds so impossible. So the idea behind this fast mimicking diet is that there's some it's basically a food kit, a 5-day food kit, where you get the benefits of fasting and you still get to eat something. So we're on the 4th day. So far so good. I mean, the food it's not like, oh yeah, I want to eat this food even after I'm off the diet. But honestly, you're so hungry by the time the meal comes that it actually tastes really good. And something I've noticed is I think it tastes at least 2 or 3 times better than it smells. Like, not that it smells bad, but it doesn't smell super appetizing. But once I start eating it, it's like, yeah, it's pretty good. And I'm also drinking, there's a drink mix. So you see I've got my Pro-On bottle here, and I'm almost done with the day's drink, which has about 50 calories per 100 pounds mixed in this big bottle. The drink is really tasty. So if you've ever considered fasting or you want to experiment with it, highly recommend a Pro-On. I'm not being paid to say this. Like, this is just something that I'm doing. It's a little special thing. Thought I would share in case anyone else is interested. I'll just put the link in chat and roll right on to some free illustration stuff. Yay! So this is called Stubborn Generator. This is one I discovered on Product Hunt. Product Hunt is a great place for discovering all kinds of cool stuff. I'm just going to kind of scroll quickly through. You can get the idea. It's almost like paper dolls, creating scenes. You may think, oh, this is kind of like Pablo Stanley's Humans. And yes, it's very similar to that in terms of you can mix and match different poses and outfits and colors and all kinds of good stuff. I'll share the link to this. I haven't actually tried out the kit yet. I haven't had time to do that. So maybe, we'll see. If we have extra time, we might take a look at that. But you can scroll all the way to the bottom and get this free thing, or you can sign up for getting even more stuff. And I'll just call out that this is produced by by a group called Craftwork, a small team of designers and front-end developers, and they've made a ton of really cool stuff. So I'm gonna post that link as, oh no, are you kidding me? The Craftwork logo doesn't go to Craftwork? Well, that's a UX fail. So I have to search for it. Alrighty, we'll do this the old-fashioned way. There's tons of stuff. Tons of cool stuff here. So when you have a chance, there's like more illustration packs and different styles. There are mock-ups and frames and templates for shoes. Lots of cool stuff there. That's that. Next, moving right along, Streamline. Streamline, you might have heard of it. It's a super ridiculously large icon kit. In fact, I'm dealing with some issues trying to use Streamline icons at work. I'm trying to propose a core set of icons that we use in our design system, and I'm using something called Icon Jar, which is supposed to make finding icons really easy. The trouble is there's 99% of the Streamline icons I don't use, I'll never use, I have no need for, and it's really difficult to within the icon jar. So this is not a knock on Streamline. Cool, they have lots of stuff, cool, and they cover lots of markets. But the tool that I'm using, the icon jar, doesn't make it very easy for me to cherry pick and say, I only want like UI, show me UI related icons, show me like this category of icon. So a little stress there. But anyways, I don't want to rain on the parade of Streamline's updated icons. They've done a huge amount of work going back, like updating things. It's at 3.0 now. I just want to highlight there's this free kit. If you've never played around with Streamlined Icons before, this is a great way to get 100 icons and experience them in these different font weights and play around with it stylistically and look for opportunities where you might use it. And then you can consider, if it's working for you, consider getting the official set. And then being thoughtful about which icons you actually open. And we may take a little look at that a bit later. We'll see. Last but not least, something that I thought was a really cool idea. So I saw this in Product Hunt 2 and I thought, oh, it reminded me of, where's this place with the logos? Shoot. I'm not going to be able to recall it. I'll have to find it. There was this designer I saw, and on his website, he had made batches of logos. Like 2018, 2019, just did like 60 logos and then sold and then priced them out and said, hey, I've like created these logos. If you want it, buy it. It's all yours. And he did a bunch of cool stuff in terms of displaying it. And I thought it was just a really fun project, a fun way to get into illustration and logo design. And when I saw this fake clients thing, I thought, oh, this might be great for inspiration to use on a project like that, where your task is, create 25 legit icons that people would pay, $100 for. Maybe that's the goal. And I came here and I was like, cool, logo design. Let's get this in chat real quick. There it is. And I don't know, I'm torn. I think there's a lot of, it's kind of cute in that it's like, hey, I'm Yvonne. I recently started a new business called the New California Steakhouse for a while now. I've been looking for a good logo for a steakhouse. I think a letter mark will fit best. Can you help us out? The story style, I think, works okay. If you're just doing like one, if you're trying to generate a bunch quickly, there's a lot to parse here. So basically it's New California Steakhouse. They want a letter mark logo. So it'd be cool. I think it would be even cooler if it just had something that would generate a list of ideas and let you see all of them instead of doing this one at a time. Sound trace, mascot logo for sound trace. It also doesn't tell you anything about the type of business, which I think would be interesting, the industry or space. So again, to me, this is not only interesting, but it's inspiration for a potential side project, right? Okay, I see what they're doing here. This is fairly simple, like doing different randomizations and fill it into some HTML text. This is pretty simple. I could tackle something like this. I could even think about ways to extend, like pick industry, pick the logo style maybe, or logo request. And they've got some other stuff too, right? So you can do, I haven't tried these other ones. Web design, let's take a look. Founder of YCK Yuck Jewelry. We're looking for someone to create a simple website for jewelry. I would like a simple landing page. We primarily use the color red. Would you be interested? Again, it's kind of cute if you're looking at one thing, but basically this is a landing page, jewelry, website, YCK Jewelry, color red. Go. So if you're looking for ideas to explore, like you want to just get some practice doing some things, check out fake clients. See if you find something really interesting. If you do, I'd love to hear about it and see it. So let me know. Alrighty, we're at about a quarter after. Let's take a look at the questions. I'm gonna scan through and upvote some things that I think are cool. Currently making transition to UX field. Recommend a boot camp. All right, let's do this one. Can I find a project that has been awarded in the UX design contest? Will you continue UX design contest? Oh, let's do this because I've been overdue for that. Do you design analytics? I'm working on it depending on user groups. They have different requests. I'm wondering how you deal with it. Do I design analytics? I'm not 100% sure what that question means, so I'm gonna skip that one. How do you set up grids and layouts for web and mobile? This one was pretty easy. I mostly don't worry about it in Sketch, but I do think about it in terms of code. So I can talk a little bit about like 8-pixel grid and what we're doing there. So let's do that one. Software, hardware, good for beginners wanting to do animations. I'd have to do some research or like outsource that question. Okay, let's dive into these 3 real quick and see how much time we have, because I do want to save plenty of time for the big project. Maybe I'll do a sneak peek of that and just talk about it. So AngelList, the talent team, a bunch of awesome colleagues of mine, released this report on LA, the LA tech scene. It's super cool. It's colorful. It's got great illustrations, and it's got really cool data and cool findings. And I saw this and I'm like, man, this is super awesome. And I was kind of doing a quick just looking and seeing some things that opportunities to improve accessibility so that this landing page can be awesome for everyone. I think that's the goal. That's something I'm trying to champion every opportunity I have at the company, is let's make sure that we're not just building really awesome stuff, but that it's awesome for everyone. And so tonight, because part of the thing I want to do is be able to provide some a to-do list or a checklist or a punch list of these opportunities that I see and potential solutions. I want to share these so we can get these implemented. This isn't something that I'm going to work on solving directly, but I thought we could go and look at some of the issues, talk about them a little bit, and then talk about solutions. And then by the end of the stream, I'll have something to send to my good buddy Shane, who's going to work on implementing and improving the accessibility of this landing page. So that's going to be the big project of tonight. So before we dive into that, let's knock out these 3 questions. All right. Hello, Anonymous says, hello, Adam. I'm currently making a transition to the UX field. Welcome, welcome. We need all the help we can get. And the transition also is super awesome because this suggests that this person's going to bring some diverse experience and perspectives to the UX field, which is fantastic. Would you recommend a bootcamp to someone who doesn't have much of a related background? My answer, this is classic Adam Ruff answer. My answer is depends, and I'll talk about a couple things, how it depends. So maybe first I'll answer the question, yes. Yes, I would recommend a bootcamp to you if you are someone who really wants to learn in a group, to have other people to bounce ideas off of, to see what other people are doing and be able to identify what's working, what's not, so you can copy and be like those people at those specific behaviors. It's also yes, if you aren't excited about the idea of sitting down with books or with websites or with online videos and reading a bunch, and then just going from there, trying to apply what you're learning without the ability to ask questions, get regular feedback, those kinds of things. So the fact that you're asking about recommending a bootcamp and you say that you don't have a ton of related background makes me think that you're probably someone who would benefit from a good bootcamp. Because I think there in my experience, there tend to be like two kinds of people, like self-learners who are kind of going out and either looking for opportunities at their current job to do the work, or they're doing some things on the side and starting to get into it. Or there's other people who are like, no, I need to make a big switch. I really have no background in this. I want to get up to speed really quickly, and I think a boot camp can help me. So the other important piece of information that I would need to know to recommend like a specific boot camp. Oh, I should make this bigger too. There we go. Sorry about that. And this person speaks Chinese. 谢谢。不用谢。Is where this person is in the world, right? Depending on your ability to travel, I would recommend different boot camps and different courses. I'm going to make an assumption because my audience is largely in North America and even more concentrated on the West Coast. I can recommend, let's recommend an online boot camp and an in-person boot camp. So there's a couple that I've worked with. And I'll talk a little about each of those. So I'll first talk about the, what does it try? Try Design Lab. I'm just opening the website up in another browser to get it up here. So the first thing I'll talk about is Design Lab. And I think Design Lab can be a really good bootcamp. They basically have this thing called UX Academy. If you're one of those latter people that I was referring to earlier who are perfectly comfortable learning from video, doing a lot of reading and things on the side, really going out and seeking that information and doing all that research themselves, and then working solo. This also potentially can work as something that you do on the side, but based on my experience with students who are doing this course, it works better if you're full-time. And the second thing I'll say about the Design Lab experience, the quality of the education and the quality of the experience depends a lot on the mentor that you get to help you along the different parts of the course. And my experience, and I haven't done any Design Lab mentoring for, I don't know what, a year, maybe 9-10 months. So it's been a while since I have mentored. I have mentored like, I don't know, 20 some people through Design Lab. And get to the point, Adam. Okay. The point is, it's a bell curve, right? You know how popular the bell curve is. I feel like there's a bell curve of Design Lab mentors. Like there is a small number of exceptionally awesome mentors who kind of go above and beyond and exceed expectations in helping students develop real world skills and trying to fill in the gaps that the course content doesn't address. The course content, in my opinion, is it's kind of like maybe B plus, B or B plus content. I think you really get a lot from your mentor. If you have a good mentor, you're going to get a lot more from the mentor, and the mentor can help you kind of position and frame the course content and help you tackle it in a way that the course content actually levels up and you get more out of it. Yeah, so that's Design Lab. You can always start with a single course if you just want to get a sense of what it's like. The courses I've taught primarily are UX Research and Strategy, Interaction Design, and is UI Design new? I feel like I've done UI Design, but I think largely these two. courses that I have mentored. If you are planning to do Design Lab and you have questions about the mentor, or you say, hey, Adam, can you recommend a mentor to me? I'd have to go through and look at some of the mentors, and I don't know if Design Lab tells if they're active or not. Let's see what happens. It looks like it's just... No, it's not just alphabetical because I'm not on here. Oh, interesting. I'm not featured. I feel like I used to have such a good relationship with them. The founders, like emailing the founders, talking about stuff. What happened? What happened? Sorry, I'm just like curious. Maybe it's like an infinite scroll thing. I'd just be surprised if they just removed me completely. No, maybe it's just people who are active. I mean, that's good. That's good, right? If these are active mentors, that's fantastic. That may be what it is. Design Lab. Oh yeah, because here's my profile. Like, I'm still here. All right. Sorry, that was totally sidetracked. All right, so that's Design Lab. This is great. So look through these folks. I'm assuming, right? I'm just making a guess that these are active mentors. If you have questions about the mentors, or you're looking for questions to ask about the mentors, hit me up. Email adam@adamruff.com. I might be able to help yourself find a mentor that's going to be super awesome for you. And then the second boot camp, General Assembly, UX, Immersive. There are a lot of people who have gone through General Assembly, and I've done some workshops and portfolio reviews with General Assembly. And in general, this is, I think it can be a really high quality course the more you put into it. So again, I think regardless of whether you're doing an online course or you're doing something, oh my goodness, all this stuff popping up, or you're heading over to a location for an IRL type experience, you really get from the course what you put into it, and putting in 1.5 or 2x more than other people probably has like even bigger results. 1 week. Maybe this is not the thing that I'm thinking of. 10 weeks part-time. I didn't realize it was they had a 1 week course option. I thought it was more weeks. Anyhow, again, the curriculum, good, like decent. It exposes you to a lot of the ideas and concepts and tools and behaviors that basically make up the skill set, or expose you to those things. Instructors, again, if you have amazing instructors, the course is that much better. And as I mentioned, how much you put into these courses and how much you go beyond the course and look for things outside the course to supplement your learning is really going to help put you in an even better spot. So those are two. That's my super long-winded answer, and I need to be less rambly with my answers. So check those out. Let me put those in chat. The Try Design Lab is a completely online course. It looks like General Assembly is making it available on campus or online. I've only had experience with the campus experience course, doing some whiteboarding workshops, doing some portfolio reviews with those students, and I think those are good places to start looking. Okay, next. Can I find a project that has been awarded in the UX design contest? Probably not. That's my short answer. And people are saying, what the heck is this UX design contest? So, UX design contest, boom, here it is. Put it in chat. Is this thing I started, what have we done? We've done like there's 9 contests. I haven't updated the 9th contest yet. But I designed UX design contest as a fun way for designers to exercise a broad range of design skills, to learn new skills and tools, to grow their design portfolios and or practice presenting their work, their design work, making new friends in the design community, and of course, winning cool prizes. That's what UX design contest is all about. It started with a very, very small group of people, and it's just me running the site. So I have had 0 time to highlight people's entries or like add them to the site. Possibly in the future, I'll start adding my own examples, because with each contest, I demonstrate the skills, the tools, and do kind of a demo or a tutorial for people who want to participate, who might not have exposure to those skills or those tools, and they're looking for some examples. I do that. I might look at connecting that with the site, but again, just really low bandwidth. Will I continue UX design contest? Yes, definitely. I have one in mind that I'm going to start. I'll probably start it next week, assuming everything is back to normal with my schedule next week. During product design office hours next week, I will introduce the next UX design contest, talk a little bit about it, and hopefully get you excited to participate. So thank you so much for the question. I hope that answers what you're looking for. All right, skip that one. Next, this one. How do you set up grids and layouts for web and mobile? I'm just going to open up Sketch real quick. So a few things. Let's see. Do I have custom artboards on? Well, I only have 2 custom artboards. So one thing I do is at work at least, I have custom artboards set up to different breakpoints. So this is not actual sizes, right? But I'm just I've got some, small, medium, really big, and mobile. Okay, so I've set these up. How did I establish these sizes? So when I proposed the different breakpoints that we use on the venture team, what I did first is I looked at the data for our users, so people logging in and using the site, to try to identify the most popular browser sizes. And I was able to identify, I think, 4 or 5 sets that largely map to things like external monitors, common and popular laptop resolutions, popular mobile resolutions. For mobile, I tried to go with the smallest resolution that we were seeing so that things would work well even a bit larger. That's how I set up designs for thinking responsively, right? Create several artboards depending on the use case and make sure that it's available on mobile. That's that. In terms of the grid, I really don't do anything to the artboard in Sketch. All I did, let me show you. So let's see, what's the best way I can show this? I guess there's a couple ways. It may be hard to see, but this is 52 pixels from the left, 71 pixels from the top. And I have, I know I can do this. I have my nudging in Sketch set up for 8 pixels so that I can work at 8 pixel increments. So we use an 8 pixel, roughly, we also have 4 pixel, 8 pixel spacing scale. And so that allows me to easily move things. And I know since I have my nudge set to 8 pixels, I can move this anywhere, and I know it's going to map to one of our spacing things. Or I can double check, because we don't have infinite spacing scale. We try to keep it to a reasonable number that we can deal with. I may say, oh, we don't have 72, but we have 80. Right, so okay, I'm going to position that there. And then when I'm looking internally at things, right, it's like, okay, I've got some text. Wow, some really big text. And I have this text, and you are, I can almost type today. You are awesome. And then what I can do is figure out within this container, let's say I'm going to be making some sort of card. There's going to be something here. I can use that spacing. So 18, that's not divisible by 8. Maybe 16 looks good. Let's set that up. So I'm just doing rough spacing like this because I know what our spacing scale is. So then I can say, okay, cool. So this is 16 pixels. So this container is going to have 16 pixels all around. If there's something else, at the bottom, that's also going to be 16 pixels from the bottom, something like that. Does that make sense? So artboards and simple spacing system. That's effectively what I'm doing. Because in terms of developing, I'm assuming we're going to use a lot of float, not float. We're going to use a lot of Flexbox, CSS Flex. Maybe in the future we'll start using some grid stuff too, and we'll use that largely for positioning things. So I don't really need to sweat too much once I have this concept of this spacing scale and these components. All right, I only have about 22 minutes. I used a lot of time on that questions. Thank you for the questions. They're excellent questions, and I hope that information was helpful. And now I want to dive into the project. So, task at hand. We've got this really super cool report. Put it in chat. Got the super cool report from AngelList that talks about LA's tech scene. Super interesting. 72% of LA's engineering grads leave LA for their first job. So this is awesome, and we want it to be awesome for everybody. So let's take a look at some accessibility issues and opportunities for improving the accessibility of this landing page. So the first thing that I usually do, is just scan the page and look at things. So first thing I see here, an input field that uses placeholder that has no label. So this is a red flag. If you don't have a label, it's possible there's some screen read only label like that's being hidden from display, but actually being available for screen readers. So I pull up my dev tools and I'll try to make this big so you can see. And what I see is there's an input field with no label. So I just see no label. So that's an easy opportunity, is for putting a label in. Essentially, if you see a placeholder, if you see an input field with only a placeholder and no label, that should be a red flag that there's an opportunity to improve that. So essentially what we can do label for the ID. I'm not going to type out that number. I'm not going to copy it. It's for the ID. And we can actually wrap the label around the input, or we can just have it be before the input. It's perfectly fine. Wrapping the label around is more useful on things like check boxes, radio buttons, those kinds of things. So enter your work email. And now we see, whoops, what happened? Label, field element. I made a mistake. What did I do? Did I not close the label? Label gets a 4. It says it's going for this ID. I'm closing it. I'm closing my label and I'm saying enter your work email. There we go. Not sure exactly what I did the first time. I suppose I can go back and find out if I'm interested. It's fine to put a placeholder in if you have a label. I don't know that you need it so much, but oftentimes what I find can be helpful is just an example. So using the label enter your work email, and you are awesome at company.com. And that reads really weird. Maybe it's something like, oh, come on. I can't mouse in there, so I'm gonna have to use the cursor. Give me the report at company.com. Cool. Now, what's going to happen is a screen reader is going to be able to see that the thing they have to enter here is an email. They'll know that, but now they're going to know that they should enter their work email address. So that's number one. Make sure that your input fields have labels. There are ways to expose those labels. I feel like there's a hair dangling down by my eye and it's really bothering me. Okay, it's gone now. There are ways to have essentially an invisible label that's available to screen readers only. Just search for screen reader only and you can find out some ways to do that. That is acceptable, but why not? Like, why not have the label here? Other things are, another thing is button. Make sure that your button makes sense on its own. So if I'm using a screen reader to go through this content and I get something that says, I'm just like skipping through all of the tabbable things, right? The things that I can act upon, and one of those is a button, and it says get your copy. I might say, get my copy of what, right? What's a copy? Get my copy. What does that mean? So what if this was download LA Tech Report, LA Tech Scene Report? This might be too long. It actually fits. I don't know how it works responsively. Download LA. It actually seems to maybe work. So think about descriptive buttons. Join the beta. What does this mean? Join the beta. I don't know what that means. A-list, apply. So it's like join A-list. Right? Or join A-list beta, something like that. Okay, so we've talked about 1, 2, things already. The next thing, let's check out these images. The other thing is when I see images, I'm like, oh, okay, cool image. Let's make sure this has an alternate description. Oh no! Alt text. This alt is empty. So basically when a screen reader sees this, they just see there's some image, fastcdn.co, blah, 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 report horizontal PNG. Don't know what that is. So think about what impact or what you're trying to communicate through this image, and then put it into words and add it as alt text. So let's see. I think I've got that selected. I can put something in, for example, the AngelList data exchange has created a new report on the LA tech scene that highlights problems and opportunities. Something like that. It's a little story, right? It's a short story about what this, basically, I see this, it's like pages of report. It's got some cool stuff. It's highlighting some different things. There we go. Alt text. Now when a screen reader reads that, they can actually read something that has some meaning or has some value. One caveat, and actually a potential reason why this image may have chosen to have no alt text, is if it is purely decorative, is if this adds no value and they're not trying to communicate anything at all, then leaving the alt empty is perfectly acceptable, right? Because there's no sense interrupting the flow of content for someone using a screen reader or other accessibility device. So for example, this one, which is like a cool little illustration, I would say in this case, probably definitely don't need it. And possibly in this situation too, if you're not trying to specifically tell something with this graphic, then having that alt text be empty is perfectly fine. If, however, you're trying to communicate something important, then make sure you have some alt text in there. Boom. That's next on our list. All right. What else? The next test. Oh, and by the way, you can discover a lot of this stuff. I should have said this in the beginning. There are fantastic extensions like the Accessibility Insights for web, and we can actually run a quick fast pass and find out a bunch of issues. Color contrast. So there's a bunch of things that don't meet color contrast. It looks like the links, the buttons don't have the required contrast level for being accessible. How do I go back? Duplicate IDs. So there's a situation where there are two elements that have the same ID. Frames must have title attribute. HTML element must have a language, so it needs to know like which language should this be read in. Is this English? Is this UK English? Is this Australian? I think they differentiate into those. They may even change the voice based on the language. Form elements must have labels. So there's that one I talked about. And then there are a few other things that we'll pick up. So if you just go to the Chrome Web Store, and you search for accessibility, you're gonna see the ones that I've added right at the top. Accessibility Insights for web, Site Improve Accessibility Checker, Accessibility Dev Tools. There's also one called AXE, A-X-E. This one is also a great one. So I'll copy that accessibility one in here. I'll put that in chat in case that's helpful. Cool. And with the last few minutes, oh, and here we see this is what the quick pass has done. It started flagging things. For contrast checking, let's get the button color. So this is the button color. There's a great tool called contrastratio.com. And this is a white background. Oops, it already had that in there. And this is, we can see, yes, it needs to be, it passes for large text, but it doesn't pass for a normal size text. So it needs to be somewhat darker or higher contrast. So if I go back to the page and I go back to the colors, let's see, I will do this. I'll actually, oops, wrong one. I'm gonna copy as HSL because you'll see what I like to do here. I don't need that colon. I'll go back to contrast ratio because there's not really anything you do when you put in hex, but what you can do, this is hue, saturation, and lightness. So one of the things I like to do if I find a color that doesn't quite meet contrast ratio, just start dropping the lightness value a little bit. Wow, I drop it 1% and I meet contrast ratio. So that color was almost passing accessibility. That's super close. So what you can do then is you go back and let's say you're really into using hex codes and you want to be consistent. What you can do is just change the value there, and now you have your new code. So this is what I would recommend using for the buttons and for links and things, so that you can meet that contrast level where people can see that clearly and meet those guidelines. Cool, let's see, how do I clear this? I think I'm doing this thing somewhere. Let's do that. Let's refresh this. I think I'll take that away. The last thing I'm going to talk about are focus states and tabbing through, kind of navigation through tabbing. So I'm going to start at report. I'm going to tab. Now the first tab, I already see, I don't see where it went, but what I don't see is an opportunity to skip to the content. So that's something that's real important. Actually, I'm pretty fond of this because I just implemented what I think is a fun tweak to the one that I have on my own website. I'll show it off here real quick. So on my first tab, last week it said skip to main content, and I thought I'll have some more fun with it. So now I have the ski emoji guy, which is, I believe, is accessible based on my searches. If anyone knows otherwise, please let me know. Ski on down to the main content. So I can hit enter, and now my tabbing, I've skipped all of this main header content that's not the main thing of the page. So that's called that pattern is called a skip link, and you can try it out. Like, try it on some websites that you enjoy, that you're a fan of, and see if they're using a skip link like that. So that's skip links, and that's something that I don't see here, but I'll just try it. Let's see if I hit enter. No, I don't see anything that's happening. So I don't actually know where that first tab is going to, but it didn't go to a skip link. So there's an opportunity there as well. Skip link, and I'm continuing to hit tab. Well, eventually it gets somewhere. So I'm gonna try this again. Tab, tab, tab. I see. I did see it go to login. So it looks like login. Login is the second tab. I don't know where the first one is. We can actually use this tool to track these clicks. Let's just check out focus states though. That's not for looking at this with all of the information here, that little underline popping up doesn't call a lot of attention, doesn't draw a big affordance. And I'm a little bit surprised because it actually looks like it's overriding the default browser focus. So when I'm talking about focus state, let's take a look here. So I've got this link. Hopefully this is big enough to see. And here are my styles. I'm going to come down here in the dev tools and pick focus. So now it has a focus, and I see that outline is set to 0. Now if I remove that, now I've got this little outline, which still doesn't look that great, honestly. I think what we can do is give it something more dramatic. Box shadow, 0, 0, 0, 4 pixels. Do we still have that color in play? I think we do. And the accessible one was 52. Ooh, what? Box shadow, yes. Why is it getting, hold on, there may be some thing overriding it. Let me just scroll down and look. I don't see anything. What? Oh, I see. HSL cannot have a pound in front of it. There we go. Look at that. That's significantly more noticeable. Would you agree? So just to go back. Let's remove the focus. I'm forcing the focus state here. Let's remove that. Boom. We're gonna go back, and now, oh wow, that's quite a bit more noticeable. Except for the button. The button is weird. There may be something weird going on with button. Mr. Raj, hello, hello. How are you doing today? We've only got 3 minutes. This is a short stream. I'm doing fairly well. And I'm excited to wrap up this with a few more cases. I'm going through this report and talking about accessibility opportunities. And I'm going to share this with a designer who's going to take some of this information and make this landing page even more accessible. And that's going to be awesome. So I'm just tabbing around. So there's a few other places, right? Like the input doesn't appear to really get any sort of special focus. This is another opportunity. It is the input focus. It looks like we don't have any special focus state. So what we can do is I'll just hack something here using the focus pseudo class, and I'll do something similar, right? Box shadow 0, 0, 0, 4 pics. Yeah, please do watch it. Leave some comments. Let me know what's good, what you want more of. There we go. So it's too bad. Let me do this. Let me get rid of the, come on. How do I change this? There we go. Let me get rid of this because I've just got a couple minutes left. And I think that's now going to work for both input fields. Let's see. Yeah, look at that. So now it's obvious. Yes, this is the input field. It looks kind of janky on the outside. So maybe we actually do an inset one for the input field. Put it on the focus state. It should give me my, where's my input focus? I'm seeing the style, but I'm maybe hidden down here. Here we go. So let's do this. Let's do inset. There we go. Now we use inset, and now it'll highlight that other thing without looking weird. Cool. Slightly less opacity. Yes, I agree. We can definitely play around with opacity. Now, the great thing for that, for figuring out like, okay, how can it be accessible as well? So for those kind of UI things, the minimum contrast is 3:1. 3:1 for those kind of UI things. So I have 3.37, 2.87, 3.11. I'm going to try to get as close to 3 as I can. That's probably at 7.3. So we could go back, and I actually do this on my own site. I adjust the opacity. Oops, did I scroll right by it? Or I didn't do focus. There we go. Now I can find it, and I need to change this and make sure this has an A for the alpha channel. And then I think it was 73, right? So there we go. Now we have 73. It's not quite as bold, right? But it's still noticeable. The last big opportunity I see is for the tab order of things. So I'd have to look into the code. Unfortunately, I don't have time to like dive in and diagnose all the symptoms, but it should really go just flow in order of things from a skip link. So I'll just highlight how kind of odd this one is. So it starts, it jumps way over here to login, even though for candidates, how it works, join beta join beta seems to be after, but for candidates, how it works seems to be first in the flow of things. And then it goes to from login to join the beta. We already talked about the label. What's Raj saying? The border drop shadow on your browser by default is way lighter. Is that accessible? They may not be following the colors. I would have to check, Raj. I'm not sure, like the Chrome default. I think there's something there, but it's definitely less accessible than the one we did, right? And why not make it easier? So that's a good question. Testing it. Okay. So, and then it goes to how it works, and then it goes to for candidates, and then what does it do? Then it goes way down to press@angel.co. I love it. Keep typing out loud. And oops, I actually backed up. Then it goes to press.angel.co down the page. Then it goes back up to download the report and enter in your email. And then it disappeared. So I don't know where it went that time. Then it goes from download the report. Oh, you know what? I think it went to this button, and this button has no focus state. How much you want to bet that's what it's doing? Let's give this a focus state real quick and see if my guess is correct. So this is a button. We're gonna do, wow. We're just gonna do all buttons. Oops, come on here. We're gonna give all buttons a focus state. And let's just keep up with our similar box shadow 000 4 pixels. So I'm not having any blur. I'm just having it stretch out a little bit. And then, if I remember correctly, it was 73%. So 0.73. Cool. And now we can test as soon as I turn it off. Now we can test that. So, aha, it is. So it just looked like it wasn't doing anything because it didn't have a focus state. But now that it has a focus state, I can clearly see what it's moving to. However, the flow doesn't really make that much sense, right? Download the report, and then download it again, and then download it again. And then learn more about this A-list thing, and then join a beta. So thinking about the tab order now, in general, if you've structured your content in a way that has really strong information hierarchy and it kind of goes from most important to least important stuff flowing down the page, then you really don't need to do anything special. For this page, I don't know how it's architected or built, so it may be an opportunity to use explicit tab index, which is usually a no-no. But once you get that skip link in, you could go in and I'll just pull up tab index. See what comes up. Is there W3 schools? Here we go. Tab index. So here's an example. Oops, let's use this zoom of setting the order. I'm gonna do try it yourself, and I'll show you a couple things. So by default, links and things have an inherent tab index of 0, and that just means go with the flow of the content. Raj has a question about the article. LA losing young talent. Where are they going? SF New York City. Does SF have junior mid roles? A lot of questions. So download the report, Raj, and let me know what you think of it. To answer your question, yes, those are some good guesses. SF, a large amount to SF, New York City, other bigger tech hubs is where they tend to be going. Does SF have junior or mid roles? Definitely. I think you're going to find more junior level roles at larger companies that tend to have more resources available to invest in helping grow that talent. Very small startups often aren't hiring for those kind of roles because they have extremely limited resources and they can't afford to spend time investing and helping people grow. But yeah, so first I'm going to show the default. So I set all the tab index to 0. I'm going to click over in this section and I'm just going to show you what. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't run it. Okay, there we go. Now it's set to what I had instead of the default, and it should flow right down the page. We should see the focus go from top to bottom, and it did. From top to bottom. Now, let's say we're on that landing page we were talking about, and we have a very specific flow that we want to do. We want to have people log in first, and then we want to have them go to this input field and then do this other thing. If we have a very explicit use case and strong reasons for doing that and helping people navigate, and that's going to be the better experience, then adding in these things like, let's have this be 2 and this will be 1, or let's see, 3 and 1. Now what's going to happen is I've told it to go to Google first, then W3 schools, and Microsoft last. So let's check that out. But try it again. Huh. Tab index 1. Why didn't it work? Something's confusing me. 2, 3 is working. Whoops, I put 0 on here. That's not what I want. Doesn't make any sense to me. I'm totally confused. Tab index is 1. Let me just play around with this. Click on the links area, then tab. I was doing that. I was clicking over in this section. Okay. Interesting. Now it's doing, so I set 0. That 0 means go with the flow. So 1 did 1 first. Let's try this. I don't understand why. Yeah, it's still going to W3 schools. It's still the first thing, even though I've told it it's not the first thing. And whatever I put as 1, tab index. I feel like there's some really funny business going on here and I don't like it. Let's see. Let's see if it actually is working. Did it give it the tab index that I said? Tab index 2, tab index 0, tab index 1. I feel like people are gonna be like, Adam doesn't know what he's talking about. All right, let's do this. HTML5 tab index attribute can be used on any HTML element, blah, blah, blah. It's not talking about tab index. Let's see if Mozilla talk about it. And first in tab order, click anywhere in this pane, then try tabbing through the elements. Third, 1, 2, 3. So it skipped the third thing. So let's see this code. First in order, didn't have anything. Then they gave it a 0. Then they gave it a 1. No, they didn't do it. They just did, it's just going in tab order. So they're only using 0. See, avoid using tab index values greater than 0. Doing so will make it difficult for people who rely on assistive technology to navigate and operate page content. Maybe my recommendation isn't a good one. Tab index 4 would be focused before tab index 5, but after 3. Not recommended. It will end up jumping between them, and it will be confusing to manipulate between your element's tab index attribute values. Instead, focus on writing them as suitable DOM sequence. So I think that's basically what I said. It's like really structure your content in a great way so that you don't need to be using any special tab indexes. And I think it says avoid using, not never use. And I don't know. I have to imagine that there is a scenario where if you're thoughtfully doing it, that you can actually have it be a good experience for people who rely on assistive technology. But I'm not 100% confident. It just makes sense to me. It makes sense to me just like the skip link, right? Just like the skip link is great for anyone. It's great for anyone using their keyboard to navigate through, or for someone using assistive technology. It makes sense to me that if the main thing on this page was like this was a landing page for getting design help, then actually like skipping past this thing and having this be tab index 1. Having this be tab index 1 might make sense if they're coming through, you know, an ad or something that says like already like pitch some stuff. I feel like there's worlds where that makes sense. Oh, interesting. That actually went before the skip link though, so that wouldn't be good. I see how this positive tab index does create some problems. Okay, this one. I'm going to add tab index 1. I'm just going to try it out because I want to see if it works in this when I'm doing this in this code here. So from here, tab, didn't go anywhere it looks like. Tab again. So that was the first thing, but there's something else that happened in between. Whereas right now, if I'm here, a tab immediately goes to that. Wow. So something else happened. I don't know where it went. I lost the tab. Huh. All right, so I think short lesson is, I mean, it is following that order though. The 1, 2. Like let's put a, I'm just gonna test it one more. Just want to test this thing. I'm gonna put this tab index 3. And then I'm going over, I know I said we were gonna end at 7. About time for my last fast mimicking diet meal of the day. 1, 2, 3. Boom. So it does seem to work well in production code. I don't know what's going on with W3 schools there with their stuff. Anywho, best have a skip link, best to organize your content so that tabbing through gives you a thoughtful experience. So it could be something like, maybe this is the only thing to tab to. Yeah, I'm trying to think of strategy about these duplicates. Anywho, let's do a quick wrap up just so I can send this really short piece of clip over to my design colleague and he can start working on some of the stuff. Big things were starting input fields without labels. So making sure that input fields have labels, or have, even if they're screen reader only, have labels for every input field. The next thing was, if you're trying to convey some important information or tell a story with the image, make sure it has alt text. If it's purely what's the word I'm looking for at the end of the day? If it's totally just like visual decorative, maybe that's what I'm looking for. If it's purely decorative and it adds no real value in terms of content story, then you don't need to include alt text. Contrast ratio, checking your contrast ratio. We found that these blues were so close to being meeting the accessibility guideline. They just need a little bit of a bump, and then they're going to be on it. We talked about the need for focus states. I don't know if do I still have focus states? Yeah, we played around with some focus states for inputs and buttons and links. Make sure that has a focus state, and then make sure that the focus path makes sense. Include the skip link, right? This doesn't have a skip link. That's this thing where you start, and the very first tab goes to skip all that main header stuff. So skip all this stuff and hop down, if that makes sense. And then I feel like I'm forgetting one that we talked about. Oh, the tab order, right? Thinking about how your information flows so that the tab order makes sense. And I think that's it that we covered, as well as checking with Chrome extensions. Okay, I gotta run. It's time to say goodbye and see you next week. Thank you, Mr. Raj, for coming in with all of the cool questions and thinking aloud. Hope to see you next week. Until then, happy designing and good night.